As most of y'all already know, we've covered a lot of comics and events that happened after the Krakoa era here on the channel. And we thought, hey, why not actually go back and break down what happened with Krakoa and how we got to some of these amazing stories we've been covering. So with that said, welcome back to Keepin' It Comic, and today we're diving into Krakoa with House of X and Powers of X Part 1. Now we all know Charles Xavier, the dreamer, the visionary, the man who once believed in peaceful coexistence between humans and mutants. For decades, he clung to the idea that mutants and humans could live together in harmony. But reality was never that kind. Time and time again, humanity rejected Xavier's dream. The Sentinels, the Mutant Registration Act, Genosha, and don't forget the decimation. I mean, every attempt to integrate mutants into human society ended in bloodshed. So Xavier did something different. He changed his dream. Instead of begging humanity for acceptance, he offered something they couldn't refuse: Krakoa, a living island, a sovereign mutant nation, a utopia built by and for mutants. This wasn't just a safe haven, it was a power move. Mutants were done being on the defensive. Now, they were playing the long game. And what gave Krakoa leverage? The drugs. Yeah, you heard right, the drugs. Krakoa's unique ecosystem produced 3 miracle pharmaceuticals: a pill that extended human life by 5 years, a universal antibiotic that cured almost all diseases, and a treatment that ended mental and neurological disorders. These weren't just medical marvels, they were the foundation of mutant diplomacy. In exchange for these drugs, Xavier demanded that Krakoa be recognized as a sovereign nation. If humans wanted the benefits, they had to acknowledge mutant independence. And just like that, the world changed. But Krakoa wasn't about securing a place in the world. It was about survival. Xavier and Magneto weren't making demands just to feel powerful. They already knew what was coming: a hidden threat. See, behind the scenes, a secret organization called Orchis was forming, made up of X-Shield, AIM, Hydra, and other top-level operatives. And their goal was terrifyingly simple: stop mutant kind before they could replace humanity. And their weapon? A mother mold. Now let me break some things down for you. Orchis is building a mother mold in orbit around the sun. A mother mold is a machine capable of creating master molds, which in turn produces sentinels. This hints at the next step of the anti-mutant evolution, showing that humanity is already prepared for an existential war against mutants. And the mutants know what's coming. Magneto, during his meeting with the human ambassadors on Krakoa, makes it clear that they are aware of humanity's secret plans. While he doesn't mention Mother Mold directly, his words make it obvious that Krakoa's leadership knows something big is coming, and they are preparing accordingly. See, Orchis views mutants as the biggest threat. They believe that mutants are destined to replace humanity, which is why they are taking drastic steps to counteract mutant expansion. The formation of Krakoa is seen as a direct escalation by them, pushing them to speed up their Sentinel-based defenses. But the establishment of Krakoa isn't about just mutant independence. It's a power play to prevent humanity from erasing them. Xavier and Magneto are not asking for acceptance anymore. They are demanding recognition, knowing that war is inevitable. Now, I also want to give you a little history on Krakoa, because Krakoa is more than just a tale of political maneuvering. It's a story rooted in mystery, power, and betrayal. Originally, Krakoa was not the sanctuary we know today. It was seen as a dangerous, monstrous entity, a living island with a primal and destructive nature. The island had existed for eons, with a connection to the mutant gene that was only discovered later. But Krakoa's story took a turn when it was revealed to be more than just a creature of myth. The island's first major appearance was in Giant-Size X-Men issue 1 in 1975. However, it wasn't until House of X and Powers of X that Krakoa's full significance was realized, and its relationship with mutant kind came to light. Krakoa, as it turns out, wasn't simply an island. It was a mutant, alive in a way that humans couldn't fully comprehend. This discovery was monumental, as it opened the doors for mutants to tap into Krakoa's living, breathing nature and use it to their advantage. But Krakoa's true potential wasn't realized until a pivotal event: the splitting of the island by the Sword of Arakko. The sword, a powerful artifact forged by the mutant apocalypse, was used to separate Krakoa into two halves. One half of the island, which would come to be known as Krakoa itself, became the center of mutankind's new nation. The other half was sent into another dimension, trapped and lost for millennia, until it was later found and returned, now known as Arakko. The division wasn't just physical, it was symbolic. Krakoa, the peaceful, thriving nation of mutants, and Arakko, home of the more ruthless, warrior-like mutant civilization, were two halves of the same being, representing the duality of mutant existence. The return of Arakko brought a new era of conflict and growth, as Krakoa had to reckon with the brutal mutants it had once left behind. Krakoa, the living island, was now awakened, and it became a sanctuary, a mutant nation, and a symbol of everything mutants had fought for: independence and survival. Mutants who were once marginalized and hunted now had a home. They can thrive. They could build. They could fight for a future where they were no longer feared. Now, let's get back to Professor X, because for the first time, he wasn't working alone. Moira McTaggart, long believed to be a simple human scientist, was revealed as a mutant with a power unlike any other. Her ability? Reincarnation, with full memory of her past lives. She had lived 10 different lifetimes, each one leading to the same conclusion: mutants always lost. No matter what path she took, aligning with Xavier, Magneto, Apocalypse, or even turning against mutants altogether, the results were always the same: extinction. So she set out to change fate. In her 10th life, she revealed herself to Xavier and showed him everything she had learned. The dream was never enough. Mutants couldn't just hope for survival, they had to take it. This knowledge reshaped Xavier's entire philosophy. For the first time, he abandoned his dream of peaceful coexistence and chose survival at all cost. And that's where Magneto came in. The man who once stood at Xavier's ideological opposite became his closest ally. With Xavier's diplomacy, Moira's foresight, and Magneto's strength, they created something truly unprecedented. Krakoa was not just a home, it was a fortress. Now, Magneto's shift has to be talked about because this is something crazy. So let me tell you about the incident that happened when the ambassadors came to Krakoa for their first tour. In the beginning of Krakoa's rise, Magneto had a significant opportunity to act accordingly to his old methods, through force. A foreign ambassador arrived on Krakoa representing humanity, carrying weapons intended to destabilize the mutant nation. Given Magneto's history, he could have taken this moment to enact a brutal punishment, sending a strong message that mutantkind would not be disrespected or endangered. However, in a striking moment of restraint, Magneto didn't kill the ambassador or expel him from the island. He didn't react in a violent, domineering way that he had often characterized his approach in the past. Instead, Magneto chose to stand down, showing a marked departure from his usual tactics. So why is this moment so important? Because it signals a significant shift in Magneto's evolving philosophy. This was not just a refusal to kill, it was a decision that placed a greater goal of Krakoa's long-term survival over immediate, violent retribution. Magneto, during this period, was not trying to create fear through violence alone. The Krakoan project was about more than just fighting back against humanity. It was about building a sovereign nation that would be recognized and respected. By choosing restraint, Magneto was sending a message, not just to the ambassador, but to the world at large, that Krakoa's leadership was different. Mutantkind was no longer going to be driven by fear or violence. They had power now, but that power would be wielded differently. Krakoa was about establishing mutant independence and sovereignty. And this moment showcased Magneto's growing belief that their strength could be used for more than just defense. It could be used for diplomacy and building relationships. Moreover, Magneto's restraint also reflects his change in his relationship with Charles Xavier and their shared vision. Xavier has always been about peaceful coexistence and negotiation, and Magneto, who had once rejected these ideals in favor of supremacy through force, was beginning to recognize that their unity and Krakoa's success depended on more than just military strength. Magneto didn't abandon his ideals in the moment, but he did learn that the path forward for Krakoa wasn't through brute force alone. It was through the balance of power, restraint, and strategy. This incident during Krakoa's first public tour highlights Magneto's evolution as a leader. While still driven by the desire to ensure mutant kind's survival and independence, he was starting to understand that the future of Krakoa was more complex than simply asserting dominance through violence. The choice not to kill the ambassador or escalate the situation was a powerful demonstration of Krakoa's leadership. Especially Magneto was committed to creating a new world order where force could be used selectively and where diplomacy, power, and restraint could all coexist. Now you gotta understand, Moira had already seen what didn't work. She had watched Magneto fail, seen Apocalypse's empire collapse, and witnessed Xavier's dream die over and over again. Now, she was done taking chances. Her true goal was to ensure mutant kind survived at any cost, and that meant eliminating anything or anyone that threatened the future. Which brings us to Destiny. A precognitive mutant was the only person who could see through Moira's plan. In a past life, Destiny told Moira, "If you do not do the right thing, I will see it, and I will burn you alive." Moira knew that as long as Destiny was alive, her secret would be at risk. So she did something drastic. She convinced Xavier and Magneto to delay resurrecting her. This was a massive betrayal of Mystique, Destiny's wife. Xavier and Magneto promised Mystique that if she served Krakoa's quiet council, they would bring Destiny back. But it was a lie. They never intended to do it. And Mystique, she knew she was being played. This deception planted a time bomb in Krakoa's leadership, and it was only a matter of time before Mystique struck back. So what exactly was the Quiet Council? Krakoa's government wasn't a democracy. It was ruled by the Quiet Council, a 12-member ruling body that governed all mutant affairs, and the members? Xavier and Magneto, the architects of Krakoa, Apocalypse, the ancient warrior who saw Krakoa as a culmination of his philosophy, Sinister, a wild card obsessed with genetics and his own secret agenda, Mystique, the untrustworthy, dangerous, but vital to maintaining order, Exodius, a religious zealot devoted to mutant supremacy, Emma Frost and Sebastian Shaw, the business minds behind Krakoa's financial empire, and Storm, Nightcrawler, Jean Grey, and Cypher, the moral compasses, or at least the ones trying to keep things from going too far. This council represented every side of mutant kind, but it also meant constant power struggles. Each member had their own vision of Krakoa's future, and some were more willing to betray the others to get their way. Now, I talked a little bit about resurrection. Now, this is crazy because they basically have the key to immortality. I mean, one of Krakoa's biggest breakthroughs was the ability to resurrect the dead, thanks to the 5, that being Gold Balls, and I'm sorry, that name always makes me laugh, Elixir, Proteus, Tempest, and Hope Summers. Mutants could now be reborn, with the memories intact. This changed everything. Death was no longer an end. Mutants who died on missions could be brought back. Old enemies could be reborn as allies. Even the most dangerous mutants could get a second chance. But this raised real major ethical questions, like, were these the same people or just copies? Who decided which mutants were worthy of this resurrection? And what happened if a mutant refused to come back? Krakoa was legit rewriting the laws of life and death, but at what cost? And while all this is going on, don't forget about the humans in all this, because right now, they're divided about the Krakoan drugs. Because you gotta remember, the drugs that Krakoa produced weren't just gifts, they were leverage. Humanity was divided on whether Krakoa's pharmaceutical miracle was a blessing or a curse. On one side, there were those who saw these drugs as a lifesaver. They extended life, cured diseases, and fixed what humans couldn't. For those in desperate need of treatment, Krakoa's offer was invaluable. But on the other side, there were those who feared that the implications of Krakoa's newfound power the drugs gave mutant kind an immense political advantage. Some saw it as blackmail, an economic dependence basically on mutants. Others believed that the drugs were a control mechanism to subjugate humanity. The question arose, would humanity bow to Krakoa just to get these essential drugs? Or would they find a way to fight back against mutant kind's growing influence? And if you think all this information is crazy enough, well, I got more news for you. Because while all this is going on, mutants are battling it out in space as well. The expansion of Krakoa wasn't just a nation, it was an empire. Mutants expanded into space, establishing Arakko, the lost mutant civilization that had been trapped in another dimension for a millennia. Arakko's mutants were warriors, far stronger and more ruthless than their Krakoan counterparts. And when they returned to Earth, tension flared. Krakoa also made contact with the Shire Empire, the Kree/Skrull Alliance, and the intergalactic economy. Mutants were no longer just fighting for a place on Earth, they were carving out a place in the stars. So with everything that I've shared with you guys today, this is what I want to leave you guys on. Krakoa changed everything. It was a bold new era for mutant kind, but it was also built on lies, secrets, and fragile alliances. Mystique was waiting for revenge, Moira was keeping dangerous secrets, Sinister was playing his own game, and Xavier, he was willing to do whatever it took to keep Krakoa alive. But the question remains, how long can paradise last before it falls? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, it really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on future content. Join our Patreon and follow us on social media. All links are in the description. And until next time, thanks for kicking it with Keepin' It Comic.